Thank you for watching. My name is Glenn Morgan, and this is We the Govern. We recently just had election results on August 3rd in Washington State, and we have one city council where the results are really worth reviewing. All right, in Washington State on August 3rd, we just had our first election results that came in from the primary. Now, I say first because Washington State has mail-in voting, so the reality is, despite the pathetic less than 20% turnout across the state, the reality is a lot of votes are going to be trickling in with the mail-in ballots, so we aren't totally sure what the results are yet, and we aren't sure how many people totally will have participated for at least another week or so. So that is, with that caveat in place, I want to go to the city of Burien, where we get a chance to talk about the election results. And it is really worth looking at this. Remember, in Washington, we have a top two primary system. I've done a video on that in the past. You can see that down below to explain how that works. But basically, it's a jungle primary. Everybody's thrown into the first primary, and they sort out the top two people that'll be on the general election in November. And the city of Burien is located, it's a small little city just south of Seattle. We've talked about the city before. I used to go there a lot when I was a kid. I had a lot of friends that lived in Burien. And it has been in the news a little bit lately because even though it's a small little place just south of Seattle, it's greatly influenced by the politics of Seattle. And the mayor, Jimmy Mata, who was elected in 2017, has been making news lately. And when you looked at the primary results on Tuesday, it doesn't look like he did that well. An incumbent should do a lot better than 43%, particularly one as well-funded as he is. And part of the reason, I think, still is some of the news that he has been generating, where the people a couple weeks ago put up these signs that said, don't vote for a couple of the incumbents and a couple of people running for office. And as you can see from these signs, they were trying to tell them, vote against these guys. These are anonymous signs. They were put up throughout the city of Burien. At this point in time, that nobody's been identified or taken credit for it. But Mayor Mata came out and he was very angry about these signs. And he went on the news and he said, hey, I can see racism in these signs. These signs are all racist because they have lightning bolts. That was his big news story, and he was roundly covered by a lot of local news stations, making a big deal out of this and offering phony rewards and everything for disclosing who did this. Now, many media outlets like the Gateway Pundit, Ari Hoffman, who is a local talk show radio host and writes for the Post Millennial, and also Jason Rantz, the talk show host, frequently featured on Fox News, also wrote several articles and interviewed him about Mayor Mata. They interviewed him about how ridiculous it was that he pretended to see racism when there clearly was nothing racist about these signs. And he did get a lot of blowback on that image. That was his big push. I even wrote an article about it at We the Governed, and you can read that article here. I link up a lot of source documents to give you a little bit more background on what's going on in the city of Burien. But it generated a lot of attention, a lot more news than what the city of Burien usually gets. And of course, it also generated plenty of social media memes, inevitably, especially after the Jason Rantz interview of Mayor Mata. Of course, he sees Nazis everywhere, roundly mocked on social media, got a lot of attention, probably not the attention that he wanted. In addition, though, he also had issues with his campaign signs being vandalized. Somebody put these corrupt stickers on many of his signs, and he was complaining about that, understandably so. This is not how his campaign signs usually look, and no matter how accurate that sticker may or may not be, that you're not really allowed under Washington state law to vandalize somebody else's campaign signs. Normally, his signs would look something like this. And here they are featured next to homeless camp, and they were prominently featured around many of the homeless encampments in the city of Burien, since that's been kind of a public policy push that he's had in the city, and he's gotten a lot of attention for it lately. But this is how his signs normally would look before they'd be defaced with those stickers. Now, Mayor Mata has gotten a lot of attention because of his close basic friendship and political alignment with King County Executive Dow Constantine. And Dow Constantine's had a policy, especially over the last year or so, of trying to deal with the fact that the biggest constituency he has in the county is actually in the city of Seattle. And they've generated national news and attention for just the collapse and decay of the city with the homeless, drug addicts, the riots downtown, just the general malaise of the city. And so King County Executive has been trying to help his friends in Seattle by basically using the surrounding communities as a pressure relief valve for the homeless and the drug addicts and the crime and the criminals, trying to push them out into the surrounding communities like Burien. But in order to do so in a successful way, he being Dow Constantine, needs the mayors and the city councils of the city to go along with him. And he found a friendly ally with Mayor Mata. And Dow Constantine and Mayor Mata have done several events for many years together. And so Mayor Mata is willing to take many of these grants and cash promises from King County in order to import a lot of these homeless and the drug addicts. And so it's really caused a lot of angst for people who live in the city of Burien. And part of it's because of the crime. And there has been an obvious crime wave going on in the city of Burien. Their parking lots frequently look places like this. Every one of these piles of glass was somebody's car that served as a convenient place to have the window broken out, and somebody could go in and steal whatever was inside the cars. This, unfortunately, is in the city of Burien, and that's what it looks like. And that type of policy, where you're importing a lot of crime and criminals, is going to inevitably look something like this. Now, Mayor Mata has done quite well raising money for his race. It's very unusual to have city council races in little cities like this raise a lot of money, and yet Mayor Mata has been able to raise nearly $52,000 for his campaign. And that was due in no small part to the fact that Dow Constantine, King County Executive, in addition to promising big cash grant grifting programs to Burien to take the drug addicts and the criminals from Seattle, has also gone out and done fundraisers for Mayor Mata. And so he's been able to raise a lot of money, which is particularly surprising considering the poor result that he got from being the best funded candidate out there. So the question is, who's this other guy, Mark Dorsey, who has came through the primary with Mata, and almost so far, we don't know all the results yet until all the ballots come in, but it looks like he's getting very close to beating the incumbent, Mayor Mata. What's funny is that this challenger, Dorsey, has only raised 21 cents with an in-kind contribution of a little over $400. I mean, this is nothing. This is a teeny amount compared to Mayor Mata's endless war chest that he's been able to collect from the political elite in the Seattle area. So this is really an indication there's something wrong with the mayor. The funny thing is, his challenger, Dorsey, has been so anemic and invisible in the campaign that citizens throughout the city of Burien are making their own signs up for the candidate, putting them up in their yard, or putting up, vote no against Mata and some of the other council members like Marks. Meanwhile, Mayor Mata is primarily focused on finding racists everywhere, wherever there's a lightning bolt to be found, and trying to obsess about who could it be that put up these secret signs all over the city. And in the course of that process, many people have pointed out to him that the dominant feature on those signs is this raised fist. And of course, that's the image that's attached to leftists and socialists everywhere, or Black Lives Matter. Or if he had gone up and looked at the Summer of Love at the Chaz Chop event in Seattle last year, where they had mostly peaceful violence and mostly peaceful murders, they had also made a huge statue of the raised fist, because this is what leftists believe, and this has been an image that they've used for well over 100 years, goes back to for a long, long time. And what these signs were doing is they weren't racist signs. This sign's clearly saying, hey, these guys are communists or socialists or leftists, which I don't think most of them would deny. And if he wants to get a little bit more information, Mayor Mata, he just would go to his fellow council member, Crystal Marks, who here is helpfully demonstrating the proper pose and imagery of the raised fists in her efforts when she joins her Antifa BLM friends out on the streets of Seattle. This is how you do it. This is what it looks like, and I'm sure she could explain to Mayor Mata exactly what it stands for. And speaking of Marks, she also was on the ballot this cycle and had a lot of people willing to challenge her. About 5 people jumped in the primary. It was quite a crew. And for an incumbent, especially one who's also claiming that she's going to run for Congress next year, she did not do well. Even in Burien, 29% is not considered a victory lap. And although it does get her out of the primary into the general in November, it's probably somewhat a reflection of the frustration that the people of Burien have had with the extremist agenda that's been pushed by this Burien City Council. And despite the Marks and Mata's colorful imagery and photos and just the media attention that they have gotten lately, they're actually not the craziest goofs on this council. Pedro Olguin, who also was a council member and is still a council member, who ran on the 2017 platform with Jimmy Mata, and I took a photo of him here. He was recently arrested last year for, and probably he's actually the first Burien council member to be arrested and put in jail for assaulting a food worker at the Leavenworth Oktoberfest, where he decided to try to cut in line and not pay for food, and he was confronted by one of the workers there. And rather than just go back and pay for the food, Pedro Olguin, council member Olguin, decided that he and his girlfriend would beat that person up. They assaulted him. He was arrested, or he was actually had a court appearance that he was going to go in on that assault charge, and instead he skipped out on the court and he got arrested a few months later. And he set a new low for the Burien City Council. Nobody's ever actually achieved the opportunity to be arrested while they've been in office. And Pedro Olguin was the first one to be doing that. And now he's just not shown up for the city council for 7 months or so. And yet, despite that, the city keeps paying him his paycheck every month. Now, wisely, he's not running again, but this activity and his actions, not just those, but other actions in the past, enabled him to achieve the rare and significant accomplishment of being featured in our Weirdos and Heroes series. He was definitely the biggest weirdo, and in a council of clowns, he was the one that stood out the most. So it's kind of funny that he's not even the one making the news right now, and all these other folk are. And this is what the city of Burien has to look forward to. Now, they're not alone. Cindy Moore, who's also a council member there, who actually violated the campaign finance laws quite a bit when she ran for office a couple years ago. She's not on the ballot this year. She'll be up in a couple years. But she's been out helpfully documenting her own legal violations, in addition to those campaign finance violations, of going out and destroying campaign signs of people that she doesn't like or causes that she doesn't like. She did not like these signs either. And it's helpful when you can document your own violations of the law. In Washington State, you're not allowed to go out and destroy those signs and of people you don't like, and yet that's what she did. So I'm not saying that she was at all involved in putting up corrupt stickers on Mata signs, but she did document her own destruction of these signs. So this is what they have to look forward to currently on the Burien City Council. And of course, we have elections, so we get to decide, or the voters of Burien get to decide exactly who it is that's going to represent them. Because if you don't take that job seriously, and if you're not paying attention to who your elected officials are, you will get clowns on the council, and they won't be nice ones. They will be ones doing crazy things to your community, importing criminals and drugs, and serving as the recipient of grant grifting games out of Seattle and King County Executive Dow Constantine. And it's a good reminder for everybody out there, not just the people who live in Burien, that there's a lot of importance attached to being an active person and paying attention to local government and showing up. The future belongs to those who show up. And it's something that we want to remind everybody all the time, and use examples like Burien. Don't elect people like this if you want your city to be not so much a clown show, but actually be a serious place that's actually trying to solve serious problems. Now, thank you for watching. If you want to learn more, please go to wethegovern.com. I'm also interested in your feedback. If you think I missed something, I realize there's more to tell about the story of the city of Burien, so add your comments below. And if you think I've missed something else in Washington state elections, I'll be doing some more videos soon, but I'd like your feedback if you have it. And until then, we will see you the next time.